It came in email, right?
All right, let's kick her off. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the East Bay Charter Township Planning Commission meeting. First, let's start the agenda this evening with a call to order and a pledge of allegiance. So if you please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We get a roll call, Ann.
Sure. Ferguson.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Wassam.
Present.
Walters.
Present.
Gonzalez.
Here.
Edley.
Here.
And Leonard.
Here. Thank you. Next on the agenda is review for conflict of interest. Anyone have anything to declare? Okay, hearing none. I'll look at the, next up is approval of agenda, and I do know there was a request to look to see if we could bump up letter 9D, and maybe we just swap it with 9A as a amendment, if there's any support for that.
I'll support.
Thank you. I don't normally do that, but we'll say there's a motion by Leonard, supported by Ferguson, for adjustments to the agenda. Any other changes or amendments to the agenda? Okay, all those signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is the approval of the meeting minutes from March 19th. Special meeting. That was the zoning. Yep, I wasn't either.
All right, I'll move to approve the special planning commission meeting on March 19th, 2024.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Carl, supported by Steve, for the approval of motion, or approval of the minutes from March 19th, 2024. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And just as a point of clarity, did we need to talk about the minutes from that March meeting, or you probably approved those during that March meeting? Okay, wonderful. Just wanted to clarify that. Next up is public comment. Feel free to come to the lectern. You've got up to 3 minutes. We will have a few of these items coming up on the agenda that will have public comment on their own, but if there's anything you'd like to say before us, feel free to take the lectern.
Just a quick comment. Greg Colezza, East Bay Township. I'd like to congratulate, commend, and thank this planning commission in resisting the rezoning request by the Innovo Development Group to build up to 1,700 multifamily housing units on that large tract of land in East Bay Township, 220 acres, ecologically significant, sensitive, and that set the stage and paved the way for transitioning to protected status by Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy. So kudos to this township and this planning commission. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Greg.
Thank you very much for all the hours you put in. I'm Carol Chakra. I'm at 1863 Caspian Lane, East Bay Township. And look forward to the conversation forthcoming from the folks who are planning the development right behind our Crystal Ridge neighborhood. And look forward to hearing that consideration will be given to the fact that ingress egress is really sensitive to our neighborhood. And the reason we say that is because a couple of years ago, when the roundabout was being built right at Hammond and 4 Mile, we had a lot of incoming people scooting around the construction and coming through our private road. And our homeowners association took special care of paying for every little crack in our asphalt, because we had some heavy trucks coming through, we had lots and lots of cars coming through. So we're certain that the developers are keeping in mind, are considering that very thing. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Any other takers? Going once, going twice. Okay. Thanks for the public comment. Next up is correspondence. Claire, you want to kind of walk us through? It looks like we've got a few different items on our desk.
Sure, so you have, there's a packet of quite a few items that came in regarding the Timber Ridge, and those have all been emailed to you as well, but I just included printed copies. You can review those during the Timber Ridge public hearing. Also received correspondence from the Watershed Center. I did want to just include it in your packet as an FYI, but it's in relation to the Hilton Hotel, which is anticipated to be in the, on the May agenda. And also just received this afternoon notification from Garfield Township. It just went out for the public notice period.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Any questions for Claire on any of the correspondence? You're doing a great job, though. It's almost seamless.
I think we're going to need additional levy.
Any other questions of Claire for correspondence? If not, we will move to Mindy, to the Township Board for a report.
I always hate this part because I always forget to look at it. Township Board, we've been working on I go blank, absolutely blank. Can we come back to
We can come back, because Paul's got a busy agenda with the ZBA. He's glowing here this evening.
I can't wait. We had no meeting.
Back to Mindy.
And Claire, maybe planning and zoning.
I can fill in.
Sounds good.
This month, there is a ZBA meeting, so Paul will have something to report next month.
Thank God.
So the only update that I have is that East Bay Township has a sustainability fellow. It's Dan Ariza, and he just started with the township a week ago. He's got a really great background in environmental science, geography, GIS. He was previously the soil erosion and sedimentation control officer for Leelanau County. So he's got some background in some of the rules and regulations as well. It's a 9-month AmeriCorps position. It's through the My Healthy Climate Corps program. So there's 30 of these fellows placed throughout the state of Michigan, but he's going to be helping assisting East Bay Township, taking a look at our septic ordinance. He's going to be assisting with a review of our stormwater ordinance. We're going to be doing a tree canopy cover study to kind of better understand what the tree canopy cover is to work on protections there. And then also connecting residents and business owners with resources to support renewable energy projects, whether that's charging stations, solar, and kind of some different financing options for those, so.
Nice. Any questions of Claire? What do you think, Mindy?
I got it.
Okay.
I need just the agenda, so I jogged my memory, and I apologize. So we've been working, everybody knows we've been working on Arbutus 5. There's a change order that came to the township board to actually pave the entire parking lot. As you may or may not recall, the original proposal that was done last year was just to pave that portion for which we tore up. But going back and looking at things, and some other changes that had happened during development, it made more sense to pave the entire parking lot, and that is what came to the township board in last month. In addition, we looked at the Jens Park. There is a grant application that went in for Jens Park. Lots of discussion about that. We worked with Grand Traverse County Road Commission on our brine agreement for dust control. We also did some other Natural Resources Trust Fund grant and the Recreational Passport grant, and these two can tell you way more about those than I can. But we also talked about the community food incubator. So what we are looking to do we got $10,000 in grant money to do, is to do a farmer's market at the township. It's going to be, is it Wednesdays?
Thursdays.
3 to 7, and they're going to start doing, the applications are coming out or have already come out. It was a pretty quick turnaround for the vendors. There's ability for food trucks in there as well, and they're also, we're working on the grant applications for the community garden. So we talked about those two things and got everybody lined up to work on that kind of thing. So if you would like to be a vendor at the farmer's market, look on the website and you can get the application for that. But it is a pretty quick turnaround on those applications as well.
Nice. Thank you. Any questions for Mindy? I only have one, and that is, are they going to be hosting it just right here?
In the back,
Oh,
actually.
in the back. Okay, gotcha. Good to know. Okay, diving right into agenda number 9, new business for the planning commission. Let's start with letter A, SPR 4-24, the Park Shore parking. And again, this is a public hearing with discussion and possible action, but Claire, maybe you want to kick it off first and set the table for us.
Yeah, that sounds good. We do have our applicant here, but just for a little bit of background, the Park Shore Resort is requesting that the township reevaluate the parking requirements under the flexible parking standards that were adopted by the township in 2023. The Park Shore Resort, the site plan was originally approved by the Planning Commission in 1999. There were amendments approved in July of 2005. The original approval required more parking spaces, and a lot of this was due to the previous jet ski rental operation that existed at the Park Shore Resort, which is no longer in operation. So the Park Shore Resort currently has 80 guest rooms, 10 employees during the peak shift, and a total of 772 square feet of restaurant space, which is open to the public. So that, based on our ordinance, requires a total of 101 parking spaces. The applicant is looking to provide a total of 92 spaces on site, so they're seeking a reduction of 9 parking spaces. So in a previous site plan approval, they had been required to have more parking spaces. They had been asked to set aside 20 across the street. According to the applicant, those spaces in the 23 years of operation never have used those 20 overflow parking spaces. Other justification, the hotel guests often arrive by one vehicle and book multiple rooms. The restaurant guests are also often hotel guests, or they arrive by foot. So just looking at a map, the hotel restaurant is within 500 feet of 4 other neighboring hotels and within walking distance of the state park, which is across the street, accessible by the pedestrian bridge. Another justification was that staff rides Beta, and then that the applicant states that restaurant peak times occur when hotel guests are elsewhere. So I'm sure applicant is here, can answer more specific questions, but that's kind of kind of the overview and recommendation.
Sounds good. And the applicant like to come up to the lectern? Just kind of introduce? Thank you. Just in case Planning Commission has any questions up front.
Hi, my name's Brian Fontoro, and I'm on the owner of Park Shore, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
And Brian, the only one that I had was with the adjustment. Is that something where the lease space, your existing lease contract would be coming up for renewal, or you're looking to kind of get rid of the additional spaces altogether?
We own that lot as well.
Oh, you do? Okay, gotcha. And the reduction, I was just kind of curious if you're looking to kind of take advantage of the new amended guidelines that we put in play, just for flexibility.
We own that lot as well. It's just, I just like to free it up and have it unencumbered by this requirement.
Got it. Okay. It's kind of what it felt like. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. We might come back to you. We're going to open it up for a public hearing real quick. Appreciate it. So with that being said, we can open the public hearing at 7:48 and invite anyone who wants to comment or have any, oh, excuse me, 6, we're ahead of time. 6:48. Anyone who'd like to come up to the lectern and discuss any matters before us tied to this request? And if not, we'll close the public hearing at 6:49 and bring it back to the Planning Commission. Feels pretty straightforward, but if there's any questions, we can get them out now. And if not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve site plan review 4-24 Park Shore parking.
Support. Okay, got a motion by Carl, supported by Mindy, for approval of site plan review 4-24. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in this evening.
Thank you very much.
Next up is the Brigantine Single-Family Sketch Plan Review, and I know that we've got the applicant here this evening, and Claire, maybe you want to give us a little background on what we're talking about this evening.
Sure. So, as you'll recall, this parcel has been approved for previous iterations of a site plan, has twice stalled, and is currently vacant with some foundations that had been put in by the previous property owner. So the current applicant went through the zoning text amendment process to update, to support up to 8 dwelling units per acre on that site. If you'll recall, we upped the density and moderate density from 5 up to 8. However, they've since decided to develop at only about 4.4 units per acre, so they're looking at a single-family detached homes rental model, and I'm sure they can speak in more detail, but that's different than what we've seen in the past. They've done that successfully in other communities. It's fewer units. It's likely to result in more trip ends than what was previously approved, so likely there'll be a traffic study or some sort of traffic assessment associated with this. They are looking to set aside a certain percentage as below market rate, so they're looking at like 80 to 120% AMI. And you'll see in the memo that I put together just some areas for Planning Commission discussion related to internal circulation, both vehicular and non-motorized connections, screening, private road standards, some of those items, but happy to go into more detail if there's any questions.
Sure thing. Any questions for Claire up front? And if not, the applicant's here this evening. Whoever's leading the charge here, come on up. Tell us a little more.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike West. I'm with Alan Edwin Homes at 2186 East Center Avenue in Portage, Michigan. Also with me this evening is Petra Kunis of Manfield Lands Consultants out of Traverse City. They're our civil engineer helping us through the process. They have the background information on the previous developments, and also they're very helpful in our in our design. First, I'll just give you a little background on Allen Edwin Homes. Maybe a lot of you haven't heard from us because most of our work is downstate. We are a single-family residential home builder. We have our corporate offices based out of Portage, Michigan, down near Kalamazoo. Also have offices in Byron Center, just south of Grand Rapids. I've heard we're the largest single-family home builder in Michigan, at least for the last few years. We've been averaging 800 to 1,000 homes, single-family detached primarily. We also, our primary geography is southern Michigan, southern half of lower Michigan, and also in northern Indiana, but we are expanding that geography to include Ohio, western and southern portions of Indiana, and hopefully Traverse City and some of these communities up north. A little bit about us. We've been in business for about 30 years now, built over 10,000 homes over that period of time. We are a top 100 builder in the nation as published by Builder Magazine. We do have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau of Western Michigan. We have Guildmaster Quality Award winner 3 of the last 4 years. And we have developed a business model that's extremely efficient as a production builder to deliver homes with excellent trade partner relationships at a price point that many other builders can't touch. And that's been successful for us during some of the very tough economic times that we've experienced over the last 20 years or so. Regarding this particular project, we are going to partner with Live Communities. We're going to meld our experience and expertise with theirs. We're going to combine capital. Allen Edwin Homes will be the primary developer and builder, and Live Communities is going to serve as the property management company for this property. That's where their strong point is, apartment management. They have a facility up here in Traverse City. Live Arbors have a management team in place. So we're hoping that that combination of experience will deliver a successful project. As Claire indicated, this will be the third time for this property. We believe it's going to be, third time is going to be the charm. We're going to knock this one out of the park. We love the area, beautiful area. Not so great today. I had the rain chase me all the way up 131, but it's a beautiful part of the state. The primary difference between, I guess, the previous developments that you've seen and ours is the home product. Before, they were primarily multi-story apartment buildings, your traditional apartment buildings. I think Brigantine had 8 24-unit, 3-story buildings scattered across the property for about 192 units. Our approach is going to be single-family detached homes, but also on a rental community basis. It's a home product that's in high demand, but you just don't have a lot of offerings. Hopefully you can still hear me. If you can still hear me, I'll keep talking.
Here, you can take our mic.
So again, the difference is the single-family detached nature of these homes. We have 3 single-family home products that we're offering. I think you have some renderings that we provided. One will be a 3-bedroom model, the other one will be a 4-bedroom model, the other one will be a 5-bedroom model. We're going to intermix them throughout the development. I think the primary home product will be a 4-bedroom unit. It's about 1,900 square feet, but we'll also be offering that 3-bedroom unit, about 1,800 square feet, and then maybe a few 5-bedroom units at around just under 2,100 square feet. Each home will have its own attached garage, so we'll have a 2-car attached garage and then a driveway, 2-car driveway for another 2-car parking. So it'll look like a subdivision, compacted subdivision, but it'll be for a rental purpose. Some of the amenities, and this is where I think our partnership with Live, a great way of creating a sense of community, and the way we've designed this is with open space in the middle portion of the property is where most of the open space is congregated. There's pickleball courts proposed, a playground area for the kids, fenced-in dog park area for the residents to use. There's an interconnected trail system, not only through the open space, but also sidewalks along one side of the interior private streets that will connect to that interior trail loop, which will create a continuous loop throughout the neighborhood. for people to enjoy. There's also an amenity in the southwest corner of the property that's going to be for the use of the residents. It's a RV and boat storage area. A lot of people up here like to enjoy the outdoors, so there's ability for the residents to store boats and RVs in that corner, and I believe that was a carryover from the Brigantine apartment project as well. I know there was a question from the lady regarding access. Our access was going to mirror what Brigantine Apartments was. An access point off 4 Mile Road, separate access point there, another one off of Vanderlip, and the associated improvements that the Road Commission required with the 2022 approval of Brigantine. So Hammond Road will get a left turn lane at Vanderlip. We'll improve Vanderlip for that 300 feet or so north from Hammond, and then there'll also be a left turn lane constructed in 4 Mile Road where the access point is. Let's see what else. Phasing, we're looking to develop this in 2 phases, roughly splitting the development in half. Likely the east half will be first phase, the west half will be the second phase. We'll get into it with the site plan when we come back in front of you to have a better defined boundary of what Phase 1 and Phase 2 is, but that's preliminarily what we're looking at. We'd like to have Phase 1 under construction later this fall, October, November. And we're looking at it'll be dependent on economic conditions, but we're looking at a pretty good construction velocity pace for this project. We're looking at hopefully 50 homes a year. So if we have 75, 80 homes in each phase, you're looking at 1.5 to 2 years per phase to build them out. As Claire indicated, this will be for market rate rentals, although we are also going to propose some workforce housing. That's going to be a completely separate application with the county and the township. I'm not the expert in that. We have somebody else that handles all that discussion and negotiation with the township and the county. We're looking at a brownfield TIF to help us recapture some of the infrastructure cost with that project. So other than that, I guess I'll just answer any questions that you folks may have or any questions from the audience.
Any questions for the applicant?
What would you expect the, just based on your experience, the market rent to be?
I always get that question, and I'm least qualified to answer that.
Yeah.
But I asked somebody before I left, what are we looking at for market rate? And they pointed me to Zillow. They said right now, if you go online and look for rental homes, like a 4-bedroom rental home on Zillow, you're going to find a grand total of 8 listings in the Traverse City area. They're older homes. They range anywhere on the low end at $1,800 a month, on the high end, $4,500 a month. Again, with the 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, and 5-bedroom split, we're probably looking at market rate being, I'm going to say it.
We won't hold you to it.
27, 2,800.
Okay.
For the 3 bedrooms, and then probably upwards.
Yeah, that's what I was-
Five's probably into the 30, mid to $3,500, $3,700 a month, probably for the 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom units.
I can tell you the area median income for Grand Traverse County,
I can too.
for the 3-bedroom products is at 100% is $2,300-ish a month. And that, if you went as high as 120, it'd go up to $2,800 for a 3-bedroom. But that's at 100% area median income. So, yeah, you're about,
I'm probably
About
low.
there.
I'm probably low for what market rate would support. It might be higher than that, but anyway, that's the approximate range.
yeah. And when you get into the Brownfield Authority and elements tied to that, that's a whole different conversation in terms of restriction and the amount of units that you would have to, and that's its own animal.
Yep, and it's not my area, so I'll handle the site plan, the other guys can handle the TIF brownfield.
Yep.
I think they're 2 separate, obviously, review processes, too.
Paul, you had a question?
Yeah, this is pretty much a discussion back and forth on this thing. I noticed that on the plan, you've indicated that the separation between the homes are 8 feet. We are, which is currently what we have. However, we are looking at new ordinances, and we're in the process right now of those new ordinances. And one of the things on the high density, I believe, under our new ordinance, is that it's 10 feet in between. So it's just, considering, since you're planning on going forward, and we're probably pretty close to having that ordinance done by that time, it's going to be at least, 10 feet as opposed to what you have at 8, yes.
Just one clarification on that, so we're increasing the setback, I think it's up to 20 feet setback, but that's for like multifamily units, so
Right.
it wouldn't apply to single-family detached. Is the way that I interpreted it, but we can definitely,
Yeah, I kind of interpret it differently.
okay.
Okay.
We can revisit that.
Yeah. The other question, on the RVs and the boats, how big are those areas? What's storage you're thinking about? What size boat? What size RV?
Well, on the plan, those spaces look like to me, they look like they're about 40 feet in length, maybe 50 feet in length, and there's maybe 15 of them in that southwest corner. I believe that was a carryover from the Brigantine Apartments project as well. I don't have the exact measurement, but it would be somewhere in that area, 40 to 50 feet in length, so you'd be able to store a trailer with a boat, RV, so forth, just so that we didn't have issues. We're going to have restrictions, obviously, and you can't be having those in your driveway. But this gives the residents there some options for on-site storage as opposed to making some, off-site.
Oh, no, I thought it was a good idea. I just wanted to know what you were planning on, whether you had any restrictions on size.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That level of detail I'm not familiar with yet, but it would clearly have to be able to fit within those spaces. And I do believe we got some preliminary comments back from staff that indicates we have to make some adjustments on that for setback and maybe add some screening along that east line, which will.
Yeah, and that was the other item, is that I see like only a couple of trees. I was thinking you'd be kind of screen that a little bit better.
Yeah, Mansfield's working on the site plan submittal, so it's going to be a detailed site plan submittal. Our goal is to have that submitted by the end of this month for your June meeting, is
Okay.
our timeline for that. So we'll have a lot more detail when it comes to that.
Thank you.
Claire, you had, I think in a note, I read in here, you had indicated a possibility of, would they consider a 10-foot wide trail down 4 Mile, at least at the entrance, or possibly along the length of the property? Is that something you all would consider? I guess it's important for the township. We've been working to expand our non-motorized transportation options, and so anything we can do to start to advance that plan, we're going to be in the process of developing a plan soon. So that would be very helpful, if you, something you could consider.
I'm not familiar with the plan and where it's supposed to go, from where to where.
Right.
We would have absolutely no problem providing an easement for the township, if that's helpful. My experience, and I have municipal planning experience before coming to Allen Edwin. I was a city and township planner for 24 years downstate. When a community tries to install that, it really doesn't become functional unless they do it all at the same time. If you try to do it segment by segment, I can still go through the community, which I was planner for 22 years, and there's still segments of sidewalk that are there from 2 decades ago.
Yeah, we have the similar things in our community, but as you get more and more built out, they do start to connect. And, I mean, we're going to have some infrastructure built around this intersection soon. So, anyway, I think
You need to have a school right here.
it's important to us. I mean, so just take that into consideration.
Well, we can have some discussions with Claire, too.
Yeah.
at the meeting.
One more question. Just looking at this, what are you visioning as far as snow removal or snow storage or?
So snow would be handled just the way it would be in any type of residential. This is more, even though it's kind of it's a detached, single-family apartment concept, it's going to operate more like a single-family subdivision when you think of it. The management company will handle all the snow on the roads, so just like the county comes through and plows your streets and kind of, everybody gets a little bit of the snow from the street, each individual tenant will have to then shovel their driveway.
Oh, no, I understand that. I'm just saying, looking at your layout, where would you, in taking care of the streets, and where would you approximately have the snow stored?
Well, again, I think I think the way the county does it up here, the way they do it down, they go through and, that half of the road gets plowed and everybody along that road gets it. I don't think they necessarily transfer it to some other location off the street. If they did, there's several areas here at the end of these roads where we could have snow storage at the end of the cul-de-sac up there in the northeast corner, at the end of the stub street.
Yeah.
At the northeast, we got some areas along the southwest corner as well. But generally speaking, they're going to go through there and just plow it just like you would a county road. So everybody that fronts that road is going to get some snow that they have to, then handle with their driveways.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just thinking about the actual storage of the snow, where that would be, because it looks tight, that's all.
Could you speak a little bit toward the interconnection? Like, have you spoke with the neighboring divisions of Headwaters and, what's the other one, Crystal Ridge?
Well, yeah, I knew that was going to be a topic of discussion. Those are different ownership entities. Our desire is to not connect with them. I know the lady to the south of Crystal Ridge indicated that there's not a desire to connect there. That one, just from a site characteristic standpoint, would be very difficult to do. There's a significant grade change at that north end of that, where their stub street is for Crystal Ridge Drive. And that's you can see the contours on our line. That would be extremely difficult. What we're proposing at Headwaters, again, to avoid these two different ownership entities, we're proposing a pedestrian connection between them. There's a sidewalk shown. But our desire is to not connect to either one of them, given the different ownership entities and the private nature of the street.
And what about to the north?
I believe we're asked to put an access easement to the north line, and we will do that with the final site plan.
Can I just make one comment on this?
Absolutely.
I think it's just general, trends that we're seeing with a lot of the recent developments. So the developments go in, the ordinance has been in place for a long time where the intent is to connect, but the roads don't go to the edge of the property line. And so at the time, it makes sense, of course, you'll extend it as upon future development, but then we're running into a situation where we don't have, the approval from the existing property to go in and pave on their property to connect. So I'm not saying that whether it's right or wrong to connect, but I think there's a challenge right now in our ordinance, because our ordinance requires those connections, and we are approving site plans where we're not paving all the way to the edge of the property, and then we're having new site plans that come in where we're not paving to the edge of the property. So, one thing that we've been doing differently the last few years is that we are requiring that easement to be put in place, but that still requires, some entity to pay for the paving of that, and so we don't have the, existing property owner put anything into escrow, and so it definitely, we run into challenges when we're not paving to the edge. So will this develop? It's hard to know, and so it's a bummer to put in a stub road that just goes, there's some topography up here, and so, but just wanted to highlight that, this was supposed to connect, and this doesn't. There was, clearly this was intended to connect, and it's not. So I think that is a challenge that we should look at moving forward and with the ordinance rewrite.
Is that something that we've talked about at those conversations? Because I'm just thinking,
I don't remember that in the ordinance.
Right now, we do require the connection.
Right.
So technically, our ordinance says you have to connect to, future properties. So we could technically require that each site plan approval paid to the property line.
I think that's what we did in the new Holiday Forest one.
Yep, yeah, especially towards the preserve side. Didn't they have to stub the road out right there?
No, to the south.
And we've been doing that, with our US 31, paving to the property line, but it's just.
right?
Yeah.
Because once it's in, I feel like it'd be challenging to then get the HOA or whomever to cough up for the future development to the north to make that additional investment. So if there was a time, it's now to put that in play. Food for thought, what it's worth. Patriot, you have something?
Mansfield Land Use Consulting. Just another angle to this. I know good planning and zoning ordinance, they want all the interconnectivity, but in real life, the neighbors, once their community is established, they don't want to connect. So that's kind of like the real life, what we're seeing. So when we're doing other developments we've done where there are paved to the property line, and we do proposals and we pave to the other side of the property line, the neighbors don't want the through connection, so then it just ends up being emergency services connection. So it still functions to provide more connectivity for emergency services, but not for the full, like, planning intended routing and traffic calming, or having traffic circulation be better.
Right.
But I'm not saying anything that's related to this, I was just a comment.
Yep.
For past projects and what happens.
Thank you. We've felt that pinch in other areas recently. We'd love to try and get over that hump some way with some partnerships. It's definitely a challenge.
I'll share a little experience when I was down in the city of Portage for 20-some years. I was the planner down there. What we used to do is, when there were public streets down there, so it's more complicated clearly with private streets because you have HOAs and maintenance and too much traffic's coming through there when you do about construction traffic. But for public streets, what we did is we would require to pave to the property line, then we put a sign at the end, possible future roadway extension. But again, it was our road. And that gave the people that were in the neighborhood, before they get established, just some knowledge that that could happen. And, you got a stub street going to vacant property, it's kind of implied it might extend, but we end up actually installing signs. And those signs would disappear every now and then, so we had to go out every couple of years and put them back up. But that was one way we tried to get it, because we felt the pinch too as a city administration with that. People, as Petra said, they don't necessarily like when their neighborhood is established to come in there and disturb it. So, challenge for everybody.
Sure. Any other feedback for the applicant?
I don't have any at this point. No, good.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the introduction. Thank you. I hope this was helpful for you, and we'll look forward to working with you in the future.
Hopefully see you guys in June. Thank you.
Sounds good. Okay. Pending any more technical difficulties, we're going to tackle site plan review 2-24 and special land use 1-24 Timber Ridge expansion. This is going to be a public hearing with discussion and possible action. And Claire, do you want to set the table for us on this one, please?
So Timber Ridge is looking to add an additional 90 sites to so they've got an existing 360, so they're looking to have a total of 450 sites. This would result in a full build-out of their 80 acres. So in conversations with the applicant, they wouldn't be looking for more sites beyond. This would be kind of the maximum build-out. The site plan, you'll notice, does not include engineering for water and sewer. That would come after a possible approval tonight. After a site plan approval, the next step would be, they would also need a stormwater permit through the township, soil erosion through the county, and an Eagle campground permit. So those would be the next steps before township issued a permit for construction. They noted in the application their desire to eventually pave the roads. 12 feet in width is what they're looking at. Minimal tree removal, or as minimal as possible. You'll see the total percentages is quite small compared to the full site. So since the 2015 approval, there have been some concerns raised about smoke, and I think Mindy is maybe the only planning commissioner, and maybe Dan as well, I can't remember, about smoke, noise, road use. At the time the concerns were raised, the township decided that the appropriate time to reevaluate a management plan would be as an amendment to the special land use permit, which is before you tonight. The management plan has been provided for the Planning Commission for review. It meets the requirements of Section 645 of the zoning ordinance, so I'm comfortable with the management plan that they put together, but it would be appropriate to take a look at that tonight. The township has reached out to the road commission just to find out if there's any future road improvements to that section of Hammond or 6 Mile, just because we've had some concerns raised. There's none planned in the near term, but the road commission encourages residents as well as the township, if we get specific locations, to submit service reports for specific potholes, and they've been definitely looking to address those issues, but no significant improvements planned in the near term. Did look into a traffic study. The proposed campsites are significantly lower than, the traffic generation of the proposed campsites would be significantly lower from a traffic generation standpoint than would trigger a traffic study, was what our engineer came back with, both hourly, peak hourly and peak daytime, peak per day traffic. And then you'll see, I also included a possible additional condition that's just on your desk. This was the condition that was included in the 2015 special land use permit. It's worked really well. I think we haven't had any complaints from like a special event standpoint, so the township issues a transient activity permit for Timber Ridge, for Iceman, and any of those larger events that occur. Those are handled separately, anything over 100 people. So you can take a look at that condition language if there's anything you want to modify in that, but that's currently what Timber Ridge is operating under with their special land use permit. And Peter is here as well as a resource and is well versed in kind of the project.
Sounds good.
The history, yeah. He was here, I was not.
And we have representation for the applicant here as well. Got to speak on behalf of the project?
Sure, I'll just be brief. I think Claire did a great job kind of summarizing what we're proposing here tonight. Basically, the full expansion of the campground for the addition of the 90 sites. I think the one thing that maybe wasn't really specified in any of the information that we provided is that you're not going to see 90 sites under construction right away. This is like an 8 to 10 year build out for the 90 sites. So it's going to be a gradual process. So I guess wanted to just clarify that this is kind of a phasing and a long-term build out. Gordon Wagner, the owner of the resort, is here, as well as Miranda Lambert, the general manager. And there's also a representative from TART if anyone has any questions. The other component of this expansion is a TART building that's being proposed in the southeast corner of call it the back 40, so to speak. So if there's any questions pertaining to that, there's a representative from TART Trails here. There's also a maintenance building that's being proposed down in that same vicinity of the TART building, as well as a proposed bathroom in the northwest corner. The road configuration for the new sites are the same as what's existing in the park, 20 feet wide as required by the fire department. As Claire mentioned, over time, there'll be a single lane paved, progressing throughout the park, but again, not all at once. It'll be a phase type of paving as needed. Sewer, water, and storm, like as is mentioned in Claire's report, we will work on once we have approval here tonight, if granted, to work through that process and get all the necessary EGLE permits, soil erosion permits, health department permits. So at that point, be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
I think there are some questions that were raised at the site plan review that I think just need to be reiterated for the guests here tonight. So one of my biggest concerns is the entrance and the stacking of vehicles coming into the park and leaving, and making sure that nobody's stacked onto 6 Mile or Hammond and that kind of thing. And Miranda and you both can you discuss that with the group now?
I'll give the broad brush and then Miranda can come up, but the short answer is they've got a new software system and some cameras installed that kind of helps them streamline the process for the vehicles coming in and checking in. They want to get them in as quick as possible as well. So I think between the camera work and the software, I don't know if there's anything more you want to add to that, Miranda.
Hi, I'm Miranda Lambert. I'm the general manager at Timber Ridge.
Yeah, our busy check-in days are Thursdays, actually. That's our busiest check-in days, and we are incredibly conscious of that 6 Mile Road. It is like the danger zone of no vehicles can be in there. And as we've grown and gotten bigger, we've realized that this has become an issue. So last year, we resurfaced our roads, and our plan now that they've kind of cured is to put in very long painted markers that say, please pull through. One of our problems is sometimes we'll get an RV that pulls into that driveway and just is like, this is a good place to stop, and then they just stop there. So especially on these Thursday busy check-in days, we have 2 staff members out there, and their job is to pull them forward. And that was our first attempt at it, and so we realized, okay, there were still some deficiencies in that. So this year, we worked with a camera company called Verkada. They install bullet cameras like you see on toll booths. As Jeff mentioned, we migrated to a different software system last season, and this will be the first full season where it works with license plate recognition. So once our guests do come in to check in, then they have to make their way through an electronic arm gate with a pass card. So these bullet cameras will actually read their license plates that they're required to enter before even making, or after they make their reservation to confirm it. So that should speed them through that process faster. On top of that, we're having 2 dedicated staff members out there with iPads checking people in, also so they don't have to make the move to come actually physically into the building. And once these people are set, for the most part, then the traffic, it really is these busy check-in days, these Thursdays, sometimes Fridays. But once they are parked there, we've found that they kind of stay. So we know, and during some events, we've had to hire different parking crews because we know events are challenging. And we've gotten pretty good at it, but we always have room to improve. And so we're hoping with this camera system, the new reservation software, the added staff, the painted parking lines, and then just general knowledge. We have a lot of repeat guests, and people are getting it now. So we're hoping that through the course of them training us, them training us, that we won't have that issue, because we don't want anybody on 6 Mile. We know that that is aggravating, and we like to be good neighbors.
So Miranda, one point that was made while we were there is, and I think there's an assumption that that initial booth, right, is a check-in point.
So there's this nostalgic, cute little hut that sits out kind of really close to 6 Mile, and that would be a nightmare to check people in, because you could literally get 1 car. And since the owner, Gordon's owned the property, that has never been used for check-in. It was a Jellystone holdover. We thought about eliminating it, but what it actually does is it creates a buffer when people are exiting. They can't blow that stop sign. They have to stop because they can't see. So we had thought, okay, let's get rid of that so nobody stops there. Then we're like, well, wait a minute. So we left it there. And so I think maybe if I don't know. People don't read my signs so much, so I don't know if I can say but we have people out there come pull forward, and with the striping and the lines, we're hoping maybe that that hut is not a check-in hut, absolutely not. The main entrance is at the lodge, and the electronic arm gate is much further past that. So. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have some statements I'd like to make.
We'll dive into that in just a moment. Yep. Thank you. We may come back to you, but appreciate it. And this is scheduled for a public hearing, so that being said, we'll open the public hearing at 7:25, we'll just call it. And at this time, anyone's welcome to come up to the lectern and speak on the matters for us.
Hi, my name is Mario Kennedy, and I'm here with my wife Amy tonight. And we live at 4887 Land's End, and I'm also here to represent one of our neighbors, John Amar, who lives at 4412 Land's End. So both John and Amy and I live adjacent to the Vasa Trail. We're pretty much right on it. And first of all, we'd like to say we love Timber Ridge. They're awesome neighbors, great family place. Matter of fact, we lived there for about 6 months when we were building our house. So we understand the culture there. It's just a wonderful place. And its proximity to the state forest is wonderful too, because it's really great how their trails integrate, out into the Vasa. And it's just a wonderful blend of trails, and it's a really good place to live. I'm here tonight to point out a very minor problem that we've seen grown over the years, and we just hope, I'm here to help, actually. Because of its proximity, you get a lot of folks coming up from downstate, and Timber Ridge rents golf carts there. And we see a lot of their guests enjoying the golf carts, but more often than should, some of those golf carts end up on the Vasa Trail. And we've seen them out there, and I've personally stopped and I pointed out that, you don't belong out here for a lot of reasons. And the reasons that I can think of is the DNR has designated, the trails for non-motorized use, and, there's 1,000 reasons for that, right? But you look at the situation, and some people, they don't say they don't know. Some people really don't know, so I'm not here to judge those folks. All I know is that it's happening, and it seems to be happening more frequently. And then we look at, we look at the situation, and the DNR has designated that part of the trail as non-motorized. And then we really think that something should be done, that Timber Ridge could do something a little more to help curb what's going on. And I have 3 very specific recommendations for Timber Ridge. First of all, I got on their website, and they have all kinds of rules. I mean, you read through their rules, and they're very specific. They're awesome rules, quiet time, visitors policies, and they got a whole rental set of rules, too. And then when you rent a golf cart, it's very specific in red. And it focuses on, if you're under 18 years old and we catch you driving either one of our golf carts around or a private one, we're going to warn you. And then, if you don't listen to us, we're going to kick you out. And we're going to keep your $300 deposit. So they're very specific about the golf carts and how they're used within their park. And one of our suggestions is to take that policy, and it's basically I need to put my glasses on now so I can see what I read here. Take that policy that's already existing, and it's an existing rental policy agreement, and add to that policy that golf carts shall not pass the posted no motorized vehicle beyond this point signs. There are signs, they're Timber Ridge signs. It says no motorized vehicles beyond this point. Some of them are a little bent up. And, some of them, and we didn't check all the access points. There's a lot of ins and outs through Timber Ridge, and I think I know most of them. I know 2 of them don't have signs, but those may be allowed RV access. But the ones that access the Vasa Trail directly, we think we should, put in their agreement that they're not allowed to go beyond those signs. And the people who rent these carts, they're going to sign this agreement. And they also need to emphasize that the golf carts are not allowed on the Vasa Trail system specifically. So when they see the Vasa sign, they're heading out of the park, they see the sign, and they know they've signed the agreement that says, well, I don't belong there.
In the interest of time, I don't want to cut you off, but you got about a minute left.
Okay, I can wrap it up. The second thing is make the consequences. Violating the policy the same as the consequences that they already have for violating a policy. And the third thing is to add to the sign, the no motorized vehicles beyond this point, add to that sign, violations are subject to fines by the DNR. And I spoke to the lieutenant today at the DNR, and he explained to me exactly how that happens. They issue citations, and it's handled just like a traffic ticket. So for the privately owned golf carts, I mean, Timber Ridge can't do much about people going out, into the trail, but put an additional sign there that say that the DNRs could, you could get a violation. So let me say we support, the expansion. Timber Ridge is great, wonderful, we love them. But we would really like to see further action taken on those golf carts. So,
Thank you for your suggestion. Appreciate it. Any other public comment?
Can we talk about either? No, sorry. My name is Tim Rica. I'm an East Bay Township resident off of Holiday Road in Stony Creek Hills. I am in definite support of the permit by Timber Ridge. I also represent Northern Michigan Mountain Bike Association. Gordon and Timber Ridge have been a great partner to us, and as part of the TART maintenance barn, NIMBA would be part of that too. So as you guys, some of you may know, we have attempted to build a maintenance barn shared with TART at the Supply Road Trailhead for the Vasa Single Track, and ran into some challenges with the state. So Gordon and Timber Ridge have stepped up and offered to allow use of their property for TART and NIMBA to build on. We're very excited for that possibility. Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Me again, sorry. Heath Day, 3672 Oxford Drive. Just in support, once again, for trails. More trails, whether it's Holiday Woodland Preserve, et cetera, access. As a prior big time involved with Norte, Timber Ridge provides year-round hobbies for everyone here. It's an asset to the community. You've got Norte kids, you've got skiing in the winter. We've got a lot of access that, as a private entity, they didn't have to provide the community. But the fact that they do is a huge asset to the community. So having that grooming barn that Tim had spoken about is not only great for us storing our products and our expensive equipment, but it's got the most snow. Over for those guys at TART, you know, they're storing stuff where it's closer to the bay, it doesn't get as much snow. Timber Ridge has generously offered up to provide us a location to build that and the assistance to do it. So the DNR's kind of stepped aside and kind of left us with nothing. They kind of stepped in as a private entity to provide us with something. So I'm in total support.
Thank you.
I'm Stephen Rabish on Vanderlip Road, right across where the brigantine was, 1892. Like, I know we definitely need more housing in town, like that's, nobody can argue that one way or the other, you know? If it's actually affordable, that'd be really cool, instead of a whole bunch more like overpriced houses around town. I know it's gonna be like a hard one to actually kind of settle out. The only thing I was wondering is if it'd be a fair concession on the developer's part to maybe try to plant some trees along that road. Just a little bit of a privacy barrier, you know, just so anybody sitting over there isn't just gonna be looking at a wall of like 14 houses. And that's that.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Any other feedback? Oh, come on up.
Hi, Nicole Hooper, East Bay Township, out by Arbutus Lake. Wanting to speak in regards to the single-family rental development proposal. I have lived here for 20-plus years in East Bay Township, and I own a 3-bedroom home, and I can hardly afford my own mortgage. So hearing what the rent will go for these homes, I'm curious as to who is subsidizing the housing and who are these units intended for? Because people who live here and work here definitely can't afford it. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 7:35 to make it easy on us all. And bring it back to the commission for further consideration. Again, this is an adjustment to their site plan approval as well as their special land use permit, so the buck stops with us this time. But any other questions or comments, or we can entertain a motion?
I just want to make a comment. Claire, you know, told us to take a look at the detailed management plan. And I just want to make sure everybody's pulled that out and looked at it, or has any questions, concerns, because that's what they're operating under now. And if obviously there's something that needs to be changed, that could be discussed here and now. But just want to make sure you took a peek.
Yeah, that was something that we talked about extensively the last go-around. So we were happy to, yes, pre-Rhonda. But thankful that it was provided to us. It's helpful for us to have something to refer back to, especially when the community gets questions. We can talk more about it, but
I was just going to ask Claire, just for clarification, so currently under their special land use permit, if they have events over 100 individuals, they need to apply for a transient activities permit? That's correct? And with these conditions, amplified music, okay.
So the way that the way that the condition currently reads is that large-scale events involving more than 100 individuals and other than family camping or events, so anyone that's coming off-site to gather, or events that include amplified music, loud motorized equipment, fireworks, or other aspects or activities that may disturb neighboring residences are not included in this special land use approval, but may be allowed on a case-by-case basis through the
Okay.
transient activity permit. So it's kind of an either-or,
Right.
if it's over 100 people and/or if it's creating, the loud noise and disturbances. And from what I can tell, that's been working well over the last several years.
So on this detailed management plan, I don't see the lake included in here or discussed at all.
If I remember correctly, she said 2019, right? That was put in.
I wasn't even aware of that myself until this evening, when I discussed it with Claire. Apparently, there was a permitting process that was outside the scope of the township. I haven't seen any documents, but I presume it was approved by the state through legal and otherwise. They're exempt by, because of it's less than 5 acres, and I think even there's been 1 to 5, depending on my recollection of the regulations are correct. I think this pond is approximately about 1 acre or so. But it's still, there's a question of whether this constitutes a structure here, and should be perhaps included, as part of the approval here. That may not be a bad idea just to add that.
Yeah, and I guess from my perspective, since it's shown on the site plan, approving the site plan would be approving, everything that's shown, detailed on the site plan. But Mindy, was your question just about the rules or management of the swimming, the activities?
Well,
in
the
lake?
detailed management plan doesn't talk about it at all as it doesn't exist on the property, and it talks about the Nordic ski trails and the Fat Shire trails and the recreation trails. Although it does say swimming lake. I'm concerned about the swimming lake. I would love to see more vegetation around it, a whole lot more naturalness to it. It's very sandy, very, very unnatural looking lake there. So, I understand though that the creation of the lake was spurred on by a storm event that actually ripped out all the trees in that area. So it was a naturally occurring event that caused them to say, hey, this is the perfect spot for this. I just feel it looks very unnatural in the fact that they dye it to prevent algae. It's very non-natural, but really if you treat it more like a swimming pool than a lake, which really, because it's lined, they're treating it, you can't fish in it because it's lined and you could potentially pop the liner. And
they drain it.
And they drain it, so they drain it and clean it once a year. So to me, that's a structure, a little bit more. And I just want to make sure that we are looking at that a little bit. I'm not opposed to it. That's not what I'm saying. I just want to make sure that we're looking at it and approving it in the correct manner.
The little that I know of it.
You can turn around and just put a new picture up if you didn't
Okay.
see it.
Drone photograph from 2019.
And the little that I know about it from this evening here, but I think maybe you're correct, basically then operates as a pool, particularly if that's the case, and it's, lined like a pool, which is basically lined to keep the water in there, maintained and drained. Certainly it seems to be you know, a logical accessory use for the campground, just as the existing pool is. But it, you know, it should be part of, it'd be best to bring it into the fold of the site plan to the extent, and approval to the extent that you can. So.
Mindy, do you think it'd be helpful to just kind of outline like a maintenance schedule as far as how they're maintaining it for safety purposes in terms of how it operates, or what more, I guess, what more would you want to see?
I just don't like how unnatural it looks with, I mean, just looking at that image, right? It stands out. It's an unnatural color because they do dye it with a food grade dye to prevent algae from coming into it. So to me, that's, you know, goes back to whatever you're gonna treat your pool with kind of thing, right? But they do have fish in it and frogs that they bring in. So, I'm not sure where we go with this, and I guess I just wanted to bring it up and talk about it to make sure that we have talked about it and it's not just ignored, but it looks very unnatural, and I don't know what we could do to make it better, especially since it's lined. You can't, you know,
With just plantings around it to help it blend in a little bit more, so it's just not so.
you know, but on the flip side, they installed it because the pool's at capacity. So they're using it as a pool, right? They're using it as a water feature for their guests. They put trampolines or other floatables. I'm not exactly sure exactly what goes out there, but they go out there and they put items out there so people use it as a lake, a water source. I'll call it a pool because it's lined, but as a land use, I don't know that we need to get into the maintenance schedule of it. It's just the aesthetic that I'm more concerned about.
I'd be concerned with putting stuff around it as far as the size of it and safety, as far as somebody going in at late at night or someone in trouble. If you've got visual distraction or visual impedance for safety. I mean, yeah, I get it, it's square, it's weird, but also if you start planting around it and safety.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I mountain bike back and forth across there because I live really close, between the single track and Timber Ridge, basically. So, and if you go there in the summer, the edges of that, which are the beaches, which are probably maybe what makes it look a little, is crowded with people. So, that's what they're doing. The kids are playing there and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think it's difficult to make it look like a natural lake, especially like a kettle lake that's in the area out there. It's not going to look like that, and it's just a recreational asset like the other things on the site. So that's how I look at it.
The other part of it is that it's not visible unless you go back there.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, it's so well hidden, no one would even know that lake is there unless you saw. So that's the only thing that makes me somewhat okay with it. I agree with the fact that it is kind of unnatural looking, but nobody really sees it except the people that stay there.
I'm just trying to think of other uses where we've looked at this from like a recreational standpoint. I can't think of any.
Well, and the thing is too, is that if you stop maintaining it, right, that liner is gonna pop in however many years, and it's gonna drain, and you're not gonna have a lake anymore.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with it. If that's our goal, is to maintain that resource and keep it all the same, then maybe just defining what they do, because we know that they have a maintenance schedule tied to that. So it's included, at least then the township or the future folks that are going to look at this know that it's not just a hole.
So,
Just for purposes of land use here, I just feel it's best just to include it, which it already is apparently in the site plan, and therefore you're bringing it into the fold of something that wasn't applied for or wasn't brought to the attention of the township at the time that it was being built. But moving forward with it, I don't think it's any different than the pool. So far from the statements here, and frankly, an abandoned pool is as much a problem as an abandoned lake. So, that's
Sure.
Abandon anything, in any structure. Look at the pit in Petoskey over the years, and remember what happened there. And so, of course, there are issues with abandonment. You look at the history of the projects that are before you. How's it been going for the years? including prior ownership, it was a Jellystone Park and so forth. What's the risk of this being abandoned to that extent, compared to other projects? And I would suggest, given my history of viewing projects over the years for multiple municipal clients, it's probably much less here with this type of infrastructure and campground than it would be for even a hotel or other type of development. So I'm not sure that you have to be overly concerned about it, but the maintenance schedule and so forth should be similar to what the pool facility is as an accessory use of the property.
Gordon, did you want to say something?
Maybe educate, how we came about this. We did, I think it was 2014, and we had a big storm.
Can you hand him your mic?
We had the big storm, and we lost, a lot of our big trophy trees. That area got hit. That was one of the places the wind shear went through. So a lot of them went out. We knew our pool was getting, close to capacity just by monitoring. Our park was getting more popular, features we were adding. So it was either add another pool or something different. So I was following Wisconsin. They have a lot more campgrounds than we do. They have a great association. Rand and I go every year to their trade show and stuff. And they started putting these in. So it's like, and they were popular, extremely popular. I think the reason why is because they're more natural than a pool. So I waited. I'm like, well, it sounds like a good idea, but 3-4 years down the road, what's the surprise is also like, oh, this is a monster. 7 years goes by, still talking to campground owners that installed them, the pond consultants. No problem, we love them. That's when we decided we got this area, a lot of trees down. It's actually down in a low area, so you're not going to see it. That's why we decided to put it there. We weren't building a structure. I contacted Eagle, asked them what exactly we needed to do for permits and all. Said, we don't regulate swimming lakes. They don't have anything to do with them. Called the county health department, said, what do I need here for this? It's going to be under an acre? Yeah. Nothing. So maybe I just blind, but that's the reason we went about it. We're a tree-covered sand dune. That's why we have great drainage, and a lot of stormwater isn't a real issue because we have so much sand. So once you take off and dig for it, you got sand. So you got two choices. You can line it, or you can put clay. That's what people do. Clay just didn't seem muddy to me. And we're looking for a place to get. And another thing we noticed at the pool, people leave the park because they would go down the beach because kids like to play in the sand next to the water and build castles and dig little river channels and stuff. So we went with the liner. It's the most aggressive, as we call it, entry level in. It's an 8-to-1 slope going in. That's why we go out 40 feet, and there's still sand underneath, and that's protecting the liner because people are walking on it. After 40 feet, you're 5 foot of depth. Nobody should be still standing and breathing unless they're Walt Chamberlain. So after that, the liner slopes off to 4-to-1. Sand won't stay on top of it, so it's just a bare liner. Being a liner, we can't anchor anything into it, so the inflatables, the toys we put out there, they're on big heavy sandbags down there. That's what our anchors are. So the reason we pump it down, clean it out, is to keep the algae. Algae turns into algae bloom. It's not something you want to swim in. The design of it, the reason for it was a swimming lake, not a fishing lake. If it was going to be a fishing lake, one, we'd have to have a clay. They tear a liner. And second, you wouldn't pump it out because you like algae because that's good. The reason we have some fish in there is one thing we don't sell in our store is any kind of mosquito spray or like that. We don't have any mosquitoes because there's no standing idle water anywhere around us. One, we're up so high, so there's no swamp stuff, and they need still water to lay their eggs in. We put the perch and bass in there to eat any larvae mosquitoes want to land. We have no complaints yet still about mosquitoes. We have minnows in there, so the fish have something to eat. The frogs, they're just creatures that live in the woods, and every spring come down there and have a mating orgy, have their tadpoles, they grow their little legs, and they hop off, and you never see them again, other than them chirping at night.
Oh, that's funny.
We dye it, another reason, one, people think it's pretty, make it look like it's Caribbean. The part where the sand's on top of the liner, we wouldn't really need it because you get the reflection just like we do in the bays in our waters from above. But in the deeper parts, it looks black, so we dye it. But the other reason, it keeps the sunlight from going in, keeps the algae from growing. And again, because it makes it not a good swimming condition. So, the reason we went with this is if it's bigger, we like to spread our people out and get them away. So you can't believe the amount of people that track out there in the woods to go to the lake. And as you mentioned earlier, kids all the way around it. The sand's there because that's, what people said they wanted. So even our playground there is all in sand. And people are running around the perimeter. That's from 19, so even the border trees are still canopying out now. They don't have to fight against anything. But really, the area that's sand is not a lot for when you see how many people are out there. And it takes the load off our pool. And I was against another pool because it's just the chlorine, the chemicals. It didn't seem as natural as a lake. That's how it came to be.
Thank you for the history, it's helpful. Back to the board.
So are we saying we don't need to add anything onto this because it's already on the site plan? So we're kind of covered?
Yeah, so by approving the site plan and special land use permit, you would be approving the swimming lake as depicted on the site plan.
I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead, Mindy.
Peter, do we need to have the engineers look at that at all? I mean, I don't think we do, but I just want to make sure that, I don't think that they looked at that lake specifically, and I don't think we should look at that lake.
I'm not sure that that's because of the nature, first of all, the lack of regulation in that area because of its size. That's part of the reason that, for the explanation, which made sense to me, that it was constructed to be slightly under an acre, to get out of the health department areas, directly. So, I mean, it's really a feature that they regulate and are subject to it. If there's any problems or complaints, that would then end up going to the health department. And it's been there a few years, so I don't think there's been any feedback from the health department as to any issues related to the lake. Because even though the lake is not regulated, again, if you had, multiple issues of swimmer's itch or other infections or things that may occur as a result of utilization of the lake, fecal coliform, whatever the case may be, you probably have a history of that already for you or a history of that at the health department, and so there's no evidence of that. So no, I don't really see this as an issue for the township engineers having to necessarily take a look at because it's isolated on the land itself. It doesn't impact the rest of the infrastructure and access to the park, to the public roads and things of that nature that are normally the concerns of the township engineer. I think there's enough regulation or lack of regulation, depending on how you look at it, that it is its thing, and it certainly is an accessory, type of use and structure for a campground. The explanation, I think, bore that out. So I think you can approve it by it's just simply bringing it in to the fold. I'm not sure I agree completely that it's not a structure because of the lining and its creation. It doesn't have as much maintenance as a pool, which you would consider to be a structure as well. But it's here, and if it's brought in under the site plan, I think you're fine with it.
Okay, all right. With that, I would like to make a motion to approve site plan 2-24, special land use 1-24 for the Timber Ridge expansion with the recommendations that, with the findings of fact in the memo from Claire Garner dated March 26, 2024, and 4 conditions, the 3 that are included in the memo, plus the transient activity permit requirement that was included in the 2015 approval.
Is there support? Thank you. We have a motion by Mindy, seconded by Rhonda, for approval with the 4 additional conditions as provided within Claire's staff report and an added addendum. Any questions or clarity on the motion?
I have one. Do we want to talk about the motorized vehicles going off-site?
I think that's something between I think that if the neighbors talk to Gordon and Miranda, I think that they're in agreement, because I don't believe they want their equipment or anybody else's equipment their equipment off-site, and I'm sure that signage, that they can work that out.
Yeah, thank you for your comments on the park. Yeah, we put the signs there, the way we sign them all over the park. And I realized the easy thing to do is just put the removable folios, so bikes can get through, the car can't. We get that removable.
We're almost there. We're almost there. Hold on. You guys got a parking lot full of discussion. We'll get there. We'll get there.
We just have to have removal, so that they can't, so they have to.
So Gordon, we got a motion on the table for approval. We got a second over here.
Discussion's complete.
I think we got all our discussion out of the way.
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate your time, everyone. Next up is, because we're not done, next up is any additional public comment. If anyone's got anything left they'd like to discuss, feel free to come on up one more time and borrow Peter's mic.
Hi, my name is Katie Niss, K-N-I-S-S. I'm new to East Bay Township, but I've been a resident of Grand Traverse County for 40 years. So I've seen a lot of the development going on, and housing is definitely something that we need, and I respect that, I appreciate that. But I will say rentals, however, is not. You cannot build wealth by, and have families settle down and grow their roots in Traverse City when everything is in rentals. And the average household income for Traverse City is, household is $75,000. And so when you're looking at a rentals, 3-bedroom rentals at $2,800 a month, that's 45% of the annual household income. That's just for rent. That doesn't include the utilities or the maintenance or anything else. So that's pretty high. And I will say, I live at the Bayview Apartments down there. 3-bedroom there is $3,200 a month. It takes 3 adults in the trades to be able to afford to live there. So it's not a place that people are going to settle down and stay. It's going to be a transitional housing because they can't afford to live there. So I just would like to encourage, yes, we do need the housing, and this is probably a really good development, but if we can try to, I just want to encourage that we push that towards home sales rather than home rental, and that will encourage people to stay longer and then put them in at a really, truly affordable rate, because as Nicole said, and the other gentleman said, like, what developments think is affordable is not actually affordable in Traverse City, so we need to start lowering that. So that's all I want to say, is give you encouragement and thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you, appreciate it. Any others? Okay. Any additional future agenda items we need to talk about? Other than, is spring going to get there soon? Some kind of spring. And then just as a reminder, we have our next upcoming regular planning commission meeting on May 7th at 6:30. And we've got our upcoming zoning ordinance special work session scheduled for April 16th and May 21st. That's our riveting, and you should all come back.
2 weeks from today.
No, but what sections of the?
2 and 4.
Thank you.
Okay. And without any more fun on the agenda, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for coming.